Hi, I'm Dr. Tracy Fanara. I'm an environmental engineer, which means that I use different scientific principles to protect the environment, humans, and wildlife. At Mote Marine Laboratory, I answer questions using investigation and myth busting. So today we're going, oh man, I just got a report of dead fish at a nearby beach. We should check it out. Good thing I bring all of my lab gear wherever I go because there's always a science experiment to be done. So the first thing we need to do, start collecting. Picking up some of the dead creatures we see and also getting a sample of the water. Looking under a microscope, we can check this water sample right away. Since our collection, I've gotten many more reports of dead fish at coastal beaches, as well as respiratory irritation, meaning that it causes people to cough or sneeze, itchy eyes, runny nose. So this tells us that this could be a biological toxin. So the first thing we're going to do is look underneath the microscope and see if there are harmful species of algae. One that's very common in the Gulf of Mexico is Karenia brevis, also known as Florida red tide. Looking at the sample underneath a microscope, we'll know that it's Karenia brevis by its shape, size, and movement. And actually, this right here is called HABscope. It's a NASA-funded project that we're working on with NOAA and GCUS. What this does is allows citizen scientists to take a sample of water, put it underneath the microscope, upload a 30-second video into an app that has an algorithm that automatically calculates the concentration of red tide by its shape, size, and swimming pattern. That information automatically goes to a NOAA respiratory irritation model, so we have real-time results. Looking at the sample right now, I can tell you there's a high concentration of Karenia brevis, which is commonly called Florida red tide. This can definitely be the reason for the fish kills because Florida red tide emits a toxin. It's called brevetoxin, which can not only kill aquatic life, manatees, fish, turtles, even sharks, but can also aerosolize, meaning that it goes into the air and it attaches onto particles in the air so that when wind comes and moves that air onshore to where people are on the beach, people can experience that coughing and respiratory irritation like we saw reported on seasick. 70% of our oxygen from phytoplankton. About 1 to 2% of those phytoplankton are harmful. Florida red tide is one of those species. It's a naturally occurring phenomenon that initiates or starts off the coast of Florida at the ocean bottom. With currents and upwelling, blooms are brought to the surface, and with currents and winds, they're brought onshore, causing respiratory irritation in humans and also harm to aquatic life. At Mote Marine Laboratory, we are working on mitigation strategies. One of those is the living dock. It's using biological filter feeders like crabs and mussels and other organisms that remove the toxin from the water column and hopefully alleviates the effects of red tide. So let's go check out our experiment. So as we saw in our sample, concentrations of red tide here are over 30 million cells per liter. And unfortunately, that concentration was too much for most of our filter feeders to survive and alleviate those effects of red tide. Although we still, no, I'm sorry. Aww, they're all dead. So the way that the toxin affects most aquatic life is by blocking off the sodium channels in their respiratory system, basically by suffocating them. But also the bigger mammals like manatee, they eat seagrass, and that toxin accumulates on something called epiphytes, which are on that seagrass. So that's how it gets into their bloodstream and affects other nervous system functions. Best thing that we can do to protect the public is to alert them of where red tide effects are. That's why we have the Beach Conditions Reporting System at visitbeaches.org and seasick, which we already saw earlier. We're also at Mote Marine Laboratory working on a number of different mitigation strategies, including ozonation, which is advanced water treatment, as well as predation to see what predators Karenia has and what parasites might affect Karenia. We need to find out what Karenia's kryptonite is. We know that red tide would be around whether humans were here or not, but we need to understand what role we play in the intensity and duration of red tide blooms and find ways to alleviate those effects. The way we do that is through experimentation and investigation, and maybe it'll be you that will figure that out. Remember, anyone could be a scientist or an engineer with some passion, hard work, and curiosity of how the world works.
Become a citizen scientist by downloading the free app. If you live near the water, you can collect water samples and share your findings with Mote marine scientists like our Inspector Plankton.